So let me go ahead and build the center cap. I'm going to select the 2 reference points that I set down for the patrol. Go Control F11. I'll call this cap center. I'll make it a patrol anti-aircraft warfare. Hit OK. And now I'm presented with the setup here. So under patrol options, I'm going to go off on 1/3 rule. I am going to have them investigate contacts outside the patrol area, and since I'm using both a patrol and a prosecution area, let me set that up real quick so that my description of this will make a little bit more sense. But you can see that I have the patrol area over here as reference point 733 and 734. These are what I would really call or refer to as their waypoints. So that's where they're going to fly. They're going to patrol, however, in an area that I'm about to define. So let's go ahead and select the outer bounds here of these guys' patrol area. So I've got the outer bounds of their prosecution area. So I've got 6 reference points selected. I'm going to add them to the map, and as you can see that it bears no resemblance whatsoever to the shape that I had in mind. This is just the way that it works, but what you have to do in this case, if it doesn't come out to the shape that you want, you just have to reorder the reference points so they go in sequence. So in this case I want 740, 741, 745, then 749. So I want 749, then I want 750, and then 746. So now I've got that overall shape that I wanted for that center prosecution zone. So let me tweak this a little bit so that it really matches what I had in mind. And any enemy aircraft that comes into this zone is going to get engaged by the center cap. Okay, so again, thinking about automation, I want to have them keep 4 aircraft on station in the center zone. So I'm going to initially launch 4 aircraft, and then once those aircraft go Winchester and RTB or run out of ammunition and return to base, additional aircraft are going to be automatically launched to fill in the gaps. So I'm going to keep the flight size as sections of 2 aircraft, and I'm going to have it use the default mission profile that's associated with the loadout, which we'll look at here in a little bit. Now, minimum number of aircraft required to trigger the mission. And I'll leave this at no preferences. If I were doing like a long-term type scenario, I could set this up to only add aircraft to this mission if enough aircraft to fill it up were available, but in this case I'm not worried about it. And I have the option of saying that aircraft numbers below the flight size do not take off. I will leave that so that I have no more than, or no less than a 2-ship taking off at any one time. And since we already set the mission doctrine, MCON, and weapons release authority in the overall side setting, all those settings that we tweaked back then automatically carry over to right here. So I don't have to worry about any of this stuff like I normally would when I'm building a mission. All that's just defaulted to what I set it to previously. Okay, so that's it for the center cap. I'm going to hold off for just a second until I get the rest of the missions built before assigning the aircraft to this mission and getting them airborne. Okay, so let me go ahead and create the west cap. So let's go ahead and call this Cap West. It's going to be a patrol and aircraft warfare. And for the east and west caps, I'm going to have 2 aircraft on station at any one time. 1/3 rule is going to be off. And the 1/3 rule, if I didn't explain that before, if I have this checked, it's going to keep 1/3 of the aircraft that are assigned to the mission airborne at any one time and on the mission. Now that's kind of redundant since we have the ability to define a specific number of aircraft to keep on station. So in this case, I'm just going to tell it to keep 2 aircraft on station at any one time. And investigate contacts outside the patrol area. Yes, I want to leave that checked because I'm working with the prosecution area. All the rest of the stuff is exactly the same, so all I need to do now is define the prosecution area. So I'm going to deselect all the reference points, select this one, this one, this one, and this one. Add them as the prosecution zone, and again I have to do this little dance with reference points to make this line up. So I want 739, 742, 744, 743. So there we go. Now it's got that shape that I wanted, so that's the zone that my west cap is going to engage in. Let me deselect the reference points, define the path for my west cap, control F11, or I'm sorry, east cap, so this will be cap east, patrol, and aircraft warfare. Okay, 1/3 roll off, 2 aircraft on station, and now I'll define the prosecution zone, so control N to deselect. I'm going to select this one, this one, this one, and this one. So add the current points, and let's see, so this one needs to go 747, 751, 752, 748. So there we go. Now that's defined. Let me tweak this a little bit to get it looking a little bit more like I had envisioned it. I wanted these guys to come a little bit further north as well if they do need to engage. So there we go. That mission is all set. So now if I bring this back up just to illustrate what I did just then. Okay, so I've got cap east over here, cap center looking in the middle, cap west looking out west. All 3 of the prosecution zones overlapping so that my 3 caps can provide mutual support to each other without me having to tell them to provide mutual support. That's just what they're going to do. Okay, so now with that all set up, let me go to Carup Air Base and go to the Air Ops screen. Now we can have a look at what all we have to play with here and what I'm going to be assigning to these combat air patrols as we go. So first off, I have 10 F-16AM MLUs, call signs Craven, Disbound, and Hammer. So like I said before, I'm not that familiar with the AM model of F-16. Let me go ahead and bring this up real quick and have a look real quick. And it's really just a standard Danish A model, and it looks like the AM is going to have to do with the Sensor and Electronics Warfare Suite. So we have the AN APG-66-2A MLU, and this was a part of that midlife upgrade to the F-16. It's got a generic spotlight, a half-mile range visual searchlight. I didn't know that about this model of 16, but okay, apparently it does. Now, ANAR 60 PMAWS, Missile Approach Warning System. So this is just a system of sensors on the aircraft that's going to detect the heat plume off of a missile launch and give the pilot, hopefully, some kind of warning. And that works within 5 nautical miles. ANALR 69, standard RWR for the F-16, radar warning receiver. And it's got the ANALQ 162 Shadow Box, defensive ECM system, and of course the good old Mark 1 eyeball, just visual searches. So let me do some research on that, especially the MLU upgrade to the APG-66, so the normal F-16 radar. I'll be right back with some more info. And according to good old Wikipedia, the version 2A that we have here is equipped with a new signal and data processor that provides 7 times the speed and 20 times the memory of the old radar computer. It has a quadruple the displayed resolution in the ground mapping mode and is reported to be close to that offered by SAR technologies, or synthetic aperture radar technologies, and used for modernization of the F-16A and B fleet for Belgium, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, and the Netherlands in the mid-90s. So there you go. That's what we get with the upgraded MLUs, and there you go. You've got the antenna out front, all the LRUs right here in the back. So if you ever thought to yourself, gee, wouldn't it be fun to be an avionics troop on F-16s? Yeah, this is the stuff that you have to deal with. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is cool, but this stuff gets complicated in a hurry when it breaks. So let me come back here and... yeah, so there we go. Under Mount Stores and Weapons, we have the 20mm M61 A1 cannon, ALE-47 shaft and flare countermeasure set, and it has the PIDs. It has the countermeasure stations built into the wing weapons pylons, which is kind of cool. Okay, but for these are going to take over the east and west caps. So let me go ahead and assign these guys to the missions. So cap east, I'm going to select Craven. Yeah, these will be Craven. I'm going to assign all 4 aircraft to the mission, but since I have it set up to only keep 2 on station, it's only going to launch 2, and then once the first 2 RTB, then the other 2 are going to be launched. And on the west cap, I'm going to have, let me see, I'll assign Hammer to this. So Hammer 1, 2, 3, and 4, launching 2 at a time. And that's going to leave me in reserve 2 F-16s, Disbound 1 and 2, that I'll be able to just, if one of my flanks or if one of my caps happens to fold and happens to get into a bad situation, I can always launch Disbound as a ready reserve just to shore up any holes in my defense as we go. Okay, so that's the east and west. Now we need to get something onto the center. So let me go back down to Carup and the Air Ops screen, we'll have a look at the C model F-16s that we have, and we have Chosen and Killer flights. So under the database entry for the 15, there you go. You see some ZZ tailcode of F-15s up there. Those are Kadena aircraft. And we've got the overview, and we've got the sensors and EW, and we have the upgraded APG-63, the version 3 AESA radar. So very, very capable. Not that the F-15 was not very capable before, but this is a big upgrade to the radar in terms of, well, in terms of reliability and in terms of capability. We've got the AOQ-128 and the ALR-56 sort of built-in RWR radar warning receivers that are standard of the F-15. I've got the AOQ-135 2's upgrade for defensive ECM. And I've got the pilots with their eyes looking out there, in theory at least as far as 50 miles, although that is heavily modified depending on the type of aircraft that you're looking for visually. Mount stores and weapons, of course, the M61 Vulcan 20mm gun. I've got ALE 45 and 58. Those are my chaff and flare systems. Although I think only chaff on the ALE 58. I've never actually worked F-15s, but I know a little bit about the systems. Now, aircraft stores, these are going to have some of the latest weapons available, AIM-120 Charlie 7s and AIM-9X Sidewinders. And we'll have a look at these once we get into the mission and some missiles start to fly around. But okay, for my F-15s, I want to set these up so that I have them on the center caps. Let me go to cap center. I'm going to select my F-15s. I'm going to assign initially chosen flight, and I have this one set to keep 4 aircraft on station at one time. And actually, no, I need to select all of these, so chosen and killer, and it's only going to launch 4 of them at a time and keep them on station. Once they come off station, additional aircraft will be launched in groups of 2. So at this point, that's all the setup work that I'm going to do, and assuming that I did everything right, that's all that I have to do in this. Now, if I were in a larger scenario, I would be able to just leave this defensive counter-air set up exactly as is, and it would just automatically run for me. That's my ultimate goal on this, is to learn the best way and the ways that work to do stuff like that, so that I can set this type of thing up and just then worry about big picture stuff, or even just worry about micromanagement stuff just at a different location in a larger scenario. So let's go ahead and hit start resume to kick it off, and I'm going to let it run in real time for 10-20 seconds just to make sure I'm not missing anything, nothing new pops up. So the thread is still the 2 MiG-29s, and we'll have a look at some of these ground radars. Now once we get to it, I'm not going to focus too much on the SAM system since it's a aircraft on aircraft, but I guess as we're waiting for this to play out a little bit more, Big Bird radar, it's a 10 radar, yeah, search radar for the SA-10, and you can see the range ring right there, big long range search radar. And coming up here, Tall King, this one is associated with, let's see, oh, this is just a standard search radar, not really associated with anything. Although that's not good enough. Let me pause real quick, go to Wikipedia and come back with some more info on the Tall King. Okay, so the Tall King really isn't associated with anything. This is just a standalone search radar. Big VHF search radar, older style. It started being used in 1955, saw some upgrades over the years, and is just a good all-around search radar. Sort of the equivalent on the Russian side of this scenario, at least, as of the E3 AWACS, just looking for aircraft as they pop up. Okay, so anyway, I said I wasn't going to get distracted. I swear I'll let this thing run and play its course. Okay, so Tall King, then I've got the SA-20 sights right there, and you can see the range rings for the missile and the white detection range for the illumination radar. And I've got another billboard, and this one is going to be associated with the SA-12 system. So that's a big looking radar right there, big mobile radar on the chassis. Okay, so nothing new popped up in the last few seconds. What I'm going to do now is very judiciously use a little bit of time acceleration. I try not to ever use more than 5 times in any scenario, really. I've just never seen any reason to kick them off and have them running at a faster pace. Okay, so I've got my 3 flights airborne, and let me zoom in real quick. I'll leave it running in real time. Have a look at how this panned out. So I've got this group up, and you can see the arc for the radar from the F-15s. This is 2 groups, 753 and 754. and this is the center cap, and then I should have a 2-ship of F-16s. You can see the wider arc on that F-16 with the more range and azimuth left and right that you get modeled here out of that radar, as opposed to the F-15. And I've got the other 2-ship over here on the east cap, and you can see their radar arc and also their missile range. And look at that big disparity between the C model AIM-120 and the B model AIM-120. So the F-16s have the B model, the F-15s have the C7 model, and yeah, look at the difference between those rings. Interesting. Okay, so let me go ahead and kick this back off at 5 times speed and wait for something to happen. Now you can notice that the F-15s are able to see the MiG-29s with their own radar at that point, although it was still outside of the engagement envelope for the F-15s, so they didn't go up there and actually engage these. It's only if an aircraft enters the prosecution zone that was already defined. Now I have some more bogeys up. Let me slow down to real time, have a look at what's going on up here. Okay, so I've got 4 groups up, or actually 4 individual aircraft up from Oslo Gardermoen, heading up into the area. So those were detected by the AWACS. I can tell, yep, ANAPY-2 RCIP. That's the kind of upgraded version of the ANAPY-2 radar that we have on the E3 AWACS, which you can see up here, the big radar dish on top. You can't miss the AWACS whenever you see it. And it's also got the little side-looking radar that you can see right there on the side of the fuselage. And I'll go to the database real quick so you can see that. So a little bit of a side-looking radar right there on the fuselage, and then the big ANAPY-2 up top. So that's that. Okay, now let me kick it back off. A little bit more time acceleration to see what happens. Oh, stand by. One more bogey up. And let me see if I get any kind of a contact report. If these were transmitting or radiating on their radar, I would have information right here about the emissions that were detected. But these are just picked up by the E3's radar at this point, so I don't really have any kind of information that's going to lead me to assume one way or another what these are. So 5 times speed. Still got these coming south. Still got those original MiG-29 cap aircraft just hanging out there. Okay, continuing to come down. And it looks like this group is kind of breaking off, and it looks like they're all just holding for now. So this isn't the big push, although I expect these to start coming down south here very, very quickly. Okay, these have turned. I've got more aircraft airborne from Oslo. And let's see, do I have any kind of a... No, still no emissions off of any of these, so just gotta hang out, be patient. Okay, these guys are coming south. Let me slow down to real-time speed and watch how this plays out. But folks, I think this is going to be a good place. I swear I don't do cliffhangers on purpose. This is like no kidding. It's been like 15-20 minutes. I have to take a break right here. But I'm going to come back in the next video and see how the rest of this pans out. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.